it's pretty interesting when you look at what's going on in the upper levels and the pieces of energy that are swinging through the United States and the pattern change that we're going to see. We're definitely going to start to see more of a northerly flow out of Canada into the lower 48 as we head into the weekend. But across the south and really across the central U.S., more of a zonal flow. You can see everything kind of lining up here east to west, all that cold air bottled up into this region. We're not going to see a lot of that move very far to the south over the weekend. We've got one system that's going to move through the northeast here, the next one lining up back across the west, and then another one up here that will dive in on the jet stream. This would be storm number 3. 2's gone. This is 3. This is 4. We're going to count them here. This one's going to move through the Great Lakes. The second one looks like it's going to try to dig a little bit further to the south. The problem I see with this is it's not really super amplified. It's almost more of an overrunning system heading into next week. Your trough digs into the west, and now you've got this storm moving through, or at least the energy and the potential for a winter storm. Certainly doesn't look like it's digging too far to the south. We may be above average with our temperatures here in the southeast, and then your polar vortex just sitting here and spinning. And look at it, just pinwheeling energy around it. That's looking really far down the road, but you get the idea. The ensemble guidance, which takes averages and really pushes things out, gives us an idea of how far south the snow may come. If you flip that over and look at the operational runs, clearly not showing as much snow that far to the south, but there is going to be some snow on the way, at least through the weekend. You can see that across the Great Lakes. Heading into next week, that starts to shift up just a little bit. We'll have to wait and see how that all pans out, but you can see maybe even some heavier snow once we move beyond this week. Multiple chances for winter weather on the way. Let's talk about the ice that we're seeing right now. Winter weather advisories have been posted for many areas. We're going to look at the future radar and take you through it. Head to weather.gov. You can get those updates there. Here's a quick look at those winter weather advisories, even ice storm warnings here for parts of Pennsylvania. Pretty wild to see that here, with the potential for some down trees, power outages too, and then into the northeast. This is not the setup. We just don't have the weather pattern for a huge winter storm event, but this could be impactful. The entire state of Connecticut, Rhode Island, all of Massachusetts, except for out here towards Cape Cod, winter weather advisories. Rochester, Buffalo, no winter weather advisories here, but again, to the south, big impacts here with ice into the mountains of West Virginia, Maryland, also into Virginia, and then flood watches further to the south and west. There's going to be a lot of heavy rain on the southern side of this system as it pushes off to the east. Let's look at that future radar, and we'll time it out. There's the ice across Ohio as we head through the overnight toward the early morning hours of Thursday with heavier snow, even blizzard warnings in effect for parts of the UP of Michigan. Winds could gust up to 55 miles per hour. You can see that here from the National Weather Service. There's that blizzard warning right there. And then winter weather advisories back here across northern parts of Minnesota, back into North Dakota. And there's all the winter weather advisories to the south where we're seeing that ice, sleet, snow. As we head through the early morning hours, now we're starting to get the freezing rain into Pennsylvania. May start as some sleet, also some snow into parts of New York. And then all of this continues to push off to the east. Heavy rain across Kentucky, West Virginia, at least most of the heavy rain into Kentucky and West Virginia. And that moisture plume moving into that cold air into parts of Northern Virginia, Maryland, and Pennsylvania. Cold enough for freezing rain. We start as snow up here into parts of New York as we move through the early morning hours. Also Connecticut, Rhode Island. Eventually that warm air moves north and we start to see things transition. Philadelphia, mix of snow, sleet, then over to freezing rain. An icy mess here with all of these winter weather advisories that have been issued because of that. We continue to move this ahead in time. Now the heavy rain moving down into Virginia, also continuing for Kentucky and Tennessee, and heavy snow possible at times ahead of our system as it moves into the northeast. And we'll continue to see that push off to the east, also to the north, up into Ontario. We start to dry out here across the Ohio Valley as everything moves off to the north and east. That heavy precipitation changing to rain right here along the coast as we move through the day Thursday. It could stay ice a little bit longer the further inland you go, and then the snow pushes up into Maine as we head into the afternoon and evening hours with the ice and everything here starting to settle down a little bit. Here's a wider look. You can see the snow across the northern plains. There's your heavy rain, and there's that icy mix moving into the mid-Atlantic and into the northeast. Let's continue to push this out ahead in time because we've got another one behind this. It starts to move into the west coast. We've got some big snows moving into California, also into Oregon, into the mountains of Idaho and Montana too. And now we're watching some moisture increase across the south. We'll see a few rain showers here as we head into Friday. And then into Saturday, this pushes off to the east, and we get snow breaking out now across the high plains. Showers across Kentucky, Tennessee, into Missouri, also Illinois and Indiana. This one's going to be a little bit further to the north, so more rain for you guys generally south of this line. Once you get up into Iowa, also Wisconsin, I think this is going to be a little bit more amplified. So the potential for seeing some heavier snow, I think, with this one likely on the northern side of this system as it kicks off to the east Saturday evening. Cold enough, almost an identical setup to what we're seeing now, just a stronger area of surface low pressure. But on the northern side of that, there could be some freezing rain, some sleet, and that ice is back into Pennsylvania again. Notice it's a little bit further to the north, maybe by 75 miles or so, at least if I had to guess based on this storm. That puts more snow, sleet, freezing rain into the northeast, changing over to that mixed precip before ending as some rain along the coast. We may stay all snow for interior areas of the northeast. And now we're going to end up seeing a couple of more inches on top of what we're getting. High pressure building in now as we move into Sunday. Colder temperatures across the east. We've pushed our boundary to the south. Now we set up for the next storm. Now, I don't think it's going to be a huge storm, and here's why. First of all, you don't have a tremendous upper level trough swinging through. I do think you're going to get some overrunning moisture here that starts to come up over top of that cold dome of air at the surface. If you go back to this map during that time period, right about here, you've got a piece of energy back here. Your trough is way up here. You're just not getting your phasing with your upper level pattern and your disturbances here. So if anything, your cold boundary set up here. Now you're just seeing that overrunning moisture. So let's go back to this map as we head into Monday and then into Tuesday. And there's that overrunning rain shower activity on the northern side. There could be a little bit of ice, maybe some snow into Virginia. Still, the jury, I think the jury is out on this, but there's starting to be some agreement here with how this is going to play out. As we move now into Tuesday, so we're just now 6 days out. It's not like we're looking out 14 days now. It's getting much closer. And you're starting to see how this could develop it to an area of low pressure off the coast and then put some heavier snow again into the northeast. I'm going to back it up just a little bit. You've got another piece of energy that's diving in from the northwest. These two aren't really connecting very well, but that could bring some light snow across the plain states. And then into the northeast, there could be a heavy dump of snow. So there's another system. Once this moves through, what happens? Well, you got another piece of energy diving in. Will it be able to phase? Will it be able to connect up and form our next storm? Maybe so. The models are hinting at it a little bit, at least the idea. And beyond this, maybe something else. I know I'm pushing it out really far in time, but I want you to get the idea that this is a very active pattern. Do I think this exact track is going to happen on now what is February 17th? Not a chance in the world, but once you get beyond this day 7, I like to look at the pattern, and the pattern looks stormy to me at this point. This is looking at the GFS through Monday and Tuesday in that same time period. Notice how the GFS also picking up on that wintry precip, very light though, across Virginia and West Virginia on the front end of our cold air. On the back end, as that second system moves in, that piece of energy, we get some heavier precip across the central United States. So the GFS looking very similar to the European. We're starting to see a good agreement, at least on the idea of this overrunning system with some weak waves of low pressure moving through, and then maybe developing a stronger coastal low as we head toward Tuesday before it moves offshore. And now you're left with this mess. And it's just really weird looking to me. It almost makes me just want to throw up my hands and go, man, I don't know what's going to happen. Oh, yeah. If you wondered if this is live, it's clearly live. I mean, seriously. So you get that kind of frustration when you start to see things go this way. And then what happens once we get into mid and late February? That's where I really just want to throw my glasses down and go, I don't even know. Yeah. All right. A lot of frustration. You can feel it. All right. In the short term, we're going to have that rain and snow across the northeast. This is just a closer look at our systems as they move through. There's that first storm that we're seeing now through the weekend. Here comes the second one as we head into, I said the weekend. That's the one we were dealing with now. This is the weekend storm, and you can see that heavy snow breaking out here across Wisconsin, Michigan. There's your ice moving back into Pennsylvania, and your snow into the northeast, transitioning over to a mix. You can see here across southern New England, across Pennsylvania, probably going back over to rain the further south you go, and then a little bit of snow shower activity behind it, and then we're done, and now we're setting up for that second system. Let's move to the snow accumulation. This is the National Weather Service touched numbers up to 5 inches in some areas. And yes, with this blizzard warning up into this region, it doesn't look like a lot of snow, but winds are going to be going up to 55 miles per hour at times, gusting, reducing those visibilities to more than a quarter of a mile, more than 3 hours. That's those blizzard conditions that are required. Heavier snow into the northeast, maybe an inch or so on the front side of this before we switch over to some freezing rain across parts of Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, and then into the northeast, the far northeast, maybe 3 to 4 inches up into Maine. Some places may see closer to 6 or 7, but the big problem is going to be the ice. So now we're talking about freezing rain from Ohio into Pennsylvania. This, again, would be through Friday morning at 7. If you want to time some of these numbers out, watch the ice as it pushes to the east. This would be early Thursday morning. You've already got it starting to accrete or accumulate across parts of Pennsylvania, and then it pushes into the northeast. We'll go a little bit closer in here to Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Maryland. Look at this. Some of these areas could see more than 0.3 of an inch. This is the official forecast. This is not modeled data, so pretty wild to see that. Further to the west, across the plains, we're fairly dry, other than the showers that will be pushing off to the east tonight, down into parts of Arkansas. Otherwise, look, quiet. A little bit of snow back into Wyoming. Some snow starts to pick up, though, into Montana and Wyoming as our next system pushes off to the east. And we can take a better look at that here on the European, starting to push some light snow out into the plain states as we move toward Friday into Saturday. This would bring the snow again. We looked at that back into Wisconsin. Too warm for snow across the south and also into Oklahoma. But look, maybe a chance for some snow into Kansas, Missouri, and further east as we head into Monday and Tuesday. Again, at this point, in my mind, this does not look like a huge snowstorm, but maybe some on the way for you. And colder temperatures, too. And then beyond this, late next week, now we're getting out into dreamland. Do we end up seeing something here by next Thursday and then maybe by Friday? Boy, wouldn't that be something? A long way to go. So when I say in the title 5 or more storms, there may be 6 or 7 individual systems that we're watching. Across the west, strong area of low pressure moving ashore, heavy snow into Northern California. That moves into Montana and Wyoming. And then we dry out some across the far west coast, at least for a little while. I would say maybe some precipitation trying to sneak back in by early next week across California, maybe even into Southern California. And how about that? Do we get some more snow into Arizona, New Mexico? Not a lot of snow here so far this year. Maybe we get the San Francisco peaks coated in some snow. That looks pretty robust. Still pretty far away on that. More time to go. All right. If you're brand new to the channel, thanks for coming over. I see all your comments. Thank you guys so much for joining the chat tonight on this live video. If you're brand new, I used to be a meteorologist many, many years ago on television. I've been out of that business. But if you like this kind of stuff, forecasting, tracking storms, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. A lot to talk about. Very, very active. And the snow across the west, by the way, yeah, there's going to be quite a bit. Let's push that European out. You can see that. Look at that. Yeah, putting some snow into the southwest maybe in a couple of weeks. Well, toward the end of next week. All right. Appreciate it, guys. Hope you have a great night, and I will see you back tomorrow. Brand new video on the way. New data will be coming in overnight. I will have it fresh off the press for you tomorrow. See ya.